My name is Roy Wetter, and I'm back with another informational class with Dragon Realty Investment Group to try to share with you guys as much as I can on this journey that I'm on building a real estate investment group. If you haven't watched some of my other videos, I'm just starting out. I'm pretty new at this. This video is purely informational. Anything that I say or shared in this video, it needs to be looked into and studied more deeply. The laws and regulations have to be checked within your own current states. And I am not a licensed professional in any way. I'm not a licensed real estate expert. I'm not a licensed financial expert, and I'm not a real estate attorney by any means. All this is informational, what we've been doing, how we've been operating, and how we've been doing based on that. So here we go. So this is actually going to be going over the steps we take in order to grow value and grow cash flow, and how we maintain that high income from these properties that we are remodeling and then renting out afterwards. After I go through this information, which don't pay too much attention to the numbers, I just have them written up here to help me keep me on track and to give you guys a little bit of an idea. But after I go through all this information, I'm going to go over something that's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, because it's something that I run into a lot when I'm teaching people about real estate and when I'm teaching people about all the different ways to capitalize on the different manners of growing equity and cash flow into property. So, all right, I'll get to it. So anyway, purchase undervalued properties. So undervalued properties, I mean, it doesn't mean you got to go digging like I've shared in the past, through, driving for dollars or tax repos, foreclosures. No, it just means find a property that isn't asking price. Find a property that, you're saving a few $1,000s on because it needs to be remodeled. It's not at the top dollar. They're looking to get rid of it. We've talked about properties that hit the market where a family member passed away and they're just trying to sell the property and get out from underneath it. There's some money to be saved there. So just look, shop around. Don't run out and buy the most expensive property you find because you like the way the paint looks. Silly. All right, live-in flips. So currently I'm actually living in a remodel property. So we purchased this property, we moved right in. Everything worked. We had a shower, we had a bath, we had toilets, we had furniture. The only difference between this house and a normal house is looked like it was still in the 90s or the 80s. So, live in your flips. So we save, probably about $700 a month by living in this property. This property to rent would cost us probably between $1,000 and $1,200 a month. In the condition it was when we first bought it. Right now we're paying about $420 a month. So there's a lot of money to be saved by just living in the properties that you purchase to remodel. Within the city limits. So living within the city limits, not necessarily city limits, but with it where city utilities are. So there's a lot of things. One of the scariest things about buying a property to remodel and to live in and to rent out afterwards is what kind of issues could I run into that I'm not seeing. You bring in somebody to look over the property and tell you what's wrong with it, they're not really going that into depth. They're looking at a lot of superficial stuff, and it's not really going to give you a great idea of what the damage or what the repairs are going to be. You're worried about the slab foundation, you're worried about electrical if it's out of date, you're worried about the roof, and you're worried about the plumbing, And so two things that you can minus out of your worry are the large expenses with plumbing and the large expenses with getting rid of your waste. So city utilities mean you don't have a septic tank to worry about, which is a massive cost if there's issues with it, and you don't have a well to worry about, which is a massive cost if you have to drill a new well or anything like that. So let's help mitigate those risks. Finding value. So we look for properties where we can add value to the property. Two ways you can do that come to mind are either finding a property that has the capabilities of gaining square footage. So around here, especially, and like it's different by state area, I'm sure, but around here, square footage drives money. So if you have a house, it doesn't have a garage, but it has an extra 300 square feet of square footage, you're going to be getting, a few $100s more a month in rent. So what we do is we look for properties with garages and we convert them. So when we go in and do the remodel, we convert the garage, we add a couple hundred square feet, maybe sometimes upwards of around 400 square feet. And, we either make it into a master bedroom or we expand the living room or something like that. And you're going to add square footage and you're going to add the ability to ask for more rent for that property. Another method too, on top of that is just doing remodels on properties that were set up very incorrectly. They got a tiny living room, a large dining room. The layout just doesn't make sense. Nobody wants to live there because it's a crappy layout. It looks stupid inside. Well, you can knock out a couple walls and make it look nice again. Equity pay down. So equity pay down is something we do. We do it when the numbers aren't where we want them to be. So we want to have our mortgages, a monthly mortgage between $400 and $460 a month. That's kind of like our goal. If it's not going to be there, if it's going to be $500 a month, $600 a month, we'll pay down the equity. A lot of times that ends up being around $20,000 so far, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is. But hey, save your taxes for 3 years. A lot of you people with 3 or 4 kids, like I know you get pretty good returns on taxes if you're making minimum wage. Save your taxes for 3 years. Boom, you got a house. You can pay down that equity and have that low monthly mortgage cost. So we pay down roughly about $20,000 per house. The equity growth. So the equity growth is just finding those properties that need to be remodeled. They still are in the 80s as far as their look goes. And you're going in, you're fixing it up, and you're gaining a lot of equity. Makes a lot of money, and it brings in a lot more cash flow compared to your mortgage. Quality for cheap. So in some ways, is it going cheaper? Well, maybe. In a lot of ways, it's actually getting more quality materials. I've found that what I do is we shop around. We go to Walmart for a lot of our nitpicky like switches and plugins and we go to Walmart for our switch covers and just a lot of weird stuff. Some of the lighting, if we can't find it or if we don't have it anywhere else. And it's a lot cheaper there than a lot of other places, and it's just fine. We go to places like, we'll go every other weekend down to Wichita Falls, about 45 minutes away, to a place called Dirt Cheap. We were informed about this place from another real estate investor. We go down there every other weekend and we just buy tons of materials because you can get an $80 fan for $5. You can get, oh my goodness, I don't even know how much money we've saved by going down there. We buy lighting down there all the time. Lighting's expensive. We buy lighting down there all the time. A lot of the bathroom fixtures, materials, and really expensive stuff sometimes. And we get it for 10% of what it originally cost. And there's no issues with it at all. Another place, Wichita Surplus, and it's just another surplus store that we learned through a real estate investor. A different real estate investor told us about a place where we get our granite countertops from. And if you go to buy granite countertops normally, it costs you $3,000. We get it for about $900. So shopping around and actually going out of your way to go to these places to get your materials cheaper. Networking with professionals. So we're actually just getting into this a little bit. We have a few people that whether they're they know how to fix AC unit problems, or they're electricians or plumbers, and they can come in, they can help us out with these big problems that we have, and it's not going to cost us nearly as much. Now, obviously you're not looking for a buddy to help you out and never pay them. We pay, and then also we actually invest with some of our professionals that we've gotten to know and learned, and we invest with them. We allow them in on the investment, and therefore then they come in and they work for a good price because they want to actually capitalize on the investment without costing their own pockets a lot of money. Also, we do the labor ourselves. We do a lot of the work ourselves, and for you guys that are just getting into real estate, like, that's huge. I can't imagine the cost on a property. I mean, I can't imagine. It's pretty simple. But the cost that you save yourself by doing the work yourself is astronomical. It's huge. I'm sure you guys have watched the flipping shows where they go in and they're like, hey, we're remodeling this property. We're going to take about a week to do it. It's fantastic. And they're like, so we found this house. Yeah, we're gonna bring in these contractors, bring in the lawn care contractors, these contractors, that contractors. So we bought it for $35,000 and we sold it for $150,000 and we made $6,000 on this property. So it was a pretty good pull. And it's like, $6,000? That's what you made? That's crazy. Like, that's scary too. How easy it could have been, just one more problem could have put them under the water. $6,000 in 2 months. Cool, that sounds great. Or $6,000 in a month. That sounds great, but it's not that great. I don't know. Anyways, so that's it, right? That is all these little different ways that we save money. And the question is like, okay, so I'll kind of explain this to people and I'll go over it with them and I'll tell them, all these different ways. And then this is what I'll get back. And now these are all things I've heard. If you're watching this and you were one of the people that said it, I'm sorry. I'm using you, but I'm not saying who you were. I'm just using what you've said. So these are all things I've heard. Like, man, that's awesome, Roy. Like, holy crap. So you made $91,000 on that house this year? Yeah, that's awesome. You can do it. It's you can do it if you just follow these things. If you just, learn it, dig into it, learn it, read some books about it, make sure you're cautious, learn how to inspect a house, learn what you're looking for. You can do all of this and you can make, $91,000 on one house in a year on top of whatever you're making. If you do one house flip a year, like let's say it takes you 12 months to remodel this property in your spare time and on your weekends. And believe me, I've done it. We remodeled a 2,000 square foot house. I did majority of the work and I did it on nights and weekends. And we did it 4.5 months. So I've done it. You can do it. And so, the capabilities of making this excess money on top of your normal income, it's there. You can do it. It's not that hard. But it does take work and it does take sacrifices. We have to live in a house from the 80s. So that's where I get coming to, right? So I get people that come up to me and they're like, well, Roy, I love it. I do. But I don't know if I want to do the work myself. I don't really know how to do it. I don't want to go watch YouTube to learn how to paint. And I don't want to watch YouTube to learn how to do drywall. And I say, well, okay, well, you don't have to do the work yourself. Because you can pay somebody to do it. It's going to cost you an extra like $10,000. But if you save up, and if you, do it periodically throughout the year, you could get it done in a year and pay somebody to do it. And then, sure, yeah. And then they come, then they're like, and, I like this whole setup and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I'm like, that's fantastic. And they're like, but I don't want to live in it because, I'm actually living in a house right now, super nice house, renting it. It's costing me a little over what I make, monthly, but it's not a big deal because my wife also works full-time job and we're just able to cover the rent. But let me tell you, 7 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. It's huge. It's beautiful. And I don't know if I could live in a house that, I didn't like the paint color and I didn't like, this, that, or the other. And my kids, I couldn't put them in a room where they couldn't, fit 4 beds to sleep on by themselves in their 3 TVs. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, you don't have to live in it. That just saves you $600 a month. Yeah. And then they're like, and I don't really have the time to look for properties. And let me but I want to buy a nice one. Like I want a nice property. I think I'm just gonna buy it when it's already ready to go. And I'm like, well, you can do that too, I guess. Yeah, because you can still make money. You can buy a house that's ready to go. You get it for the right price. And the renters, they'll pay down pay some equity down on it on the principal, and you'll make some cash flow on it, sure. And and then they'll and so they just knit, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting here thinking, you've cut out everything. There's nothing left. And I realized that this person is going to be in a lot of hot water when they buy a house that costs too much. They didn't do any work on it, so there's no equity growth. The amount that they can rent it for is just a little over the amount that they're paying on their mortgage, and that's going to do two things. It's, there's no equity growth, so you're not making that 91,000, that 60,000, that 80,000 extra that year. You're not making that at all. You're not bringing yourself in $750 in cash flow for that property a month. No, now you're bringing in $75 in cash flow. You're making like a few $1,000s maybe in equity growth if you do anything at all to the property. You might make some of appreciation. You might lose some in appreciation, because you might lose appreciation. That the neighborhood might drop in value. You don't know. And so all these great ideas, all these things that take a little bit of work, take a little bit more effort, take a little bit, you're trying to retire early. You're trying to retire in 8-9 years. You're trying to do this. You're trying to get out of your job. You're trying to, be able to make more income to, take care of your family. You don't want your kids to like have to live, within this, I don't want to have a house in town. I can't do that. Can't do house in town. I'm going to have to flip a house in the country. And it's like, yeah, those are super expensive. The land costs money, and there's no equity growth in the house, because it's about the property and not really about the house as much. Like, you can't cut all these things out and expect to be okay. You have to look at how much money you make. If you're making $3,000 a month and you want the 2 brand new cars, and you want the house that's already remodeled to rent out, well, then you're not going to be making any money. You're just going to have 2 really high, vehicle payments. You're going to have a really high mortgage. And when the rents drop in the area, you're going to have extra money that you have to put out then for the property that was supposed to make you money, but now it's not. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying, because I look at this and I say it's so simple. You purchase a property, you move in. Yeah, it's not your dream home. Yeah, it's not in the middle of the country with 80 acres, but you're trying to retire in 4 years. You're trying to spend the rest of your life with your wife and kids, and you want to travel, And so you buy it, you live in it, you spend some years in town. Who cares? Whatever. I'll retire early if it means living in town. You do a little work on the weekends and the evenings. You learn how to do something other than play video games all day. Yeah, that's about it. That's about it. It's really not that difficult. It's kind of a fun journey to go on, and yet the small sacrifices that have to be made in order to make the money, in order to retire early, or in order to just build wealth for your family and for your kids, it's huge. Oh, and like another thing, if your kid comes down with something crazy, if your wife has a heart attack, cancer, like, where do you think the money comes from for that? I hope you have good insurance. Those things cost a lot. But if you have 7 or 8 properties, you can sell a property, pull $80,000 out of that, and cover chemo. So these are the important things that I care a lot about. And then you talk to people, and a lot of them don't want to, take those little sacrifices that it takes to actually put yourself and your family and your kids in a great position in life. Crazy. And that's why they'll always be where they're at. And that's why most people in the U.S. get divorced over financial issues, because they're not really going to make the sacrifices that'll save their marriage. My wife is the most important thing in the world to me. Oh, okay. Financial issues are number 1 cause of divorce. Oh, yeah, I know that. Are you willing to fix your finances? No. Okay, just curious. All right, well, that's all I have. That's my little rant. That's my little out there, because I have to have you guys know that all of this is possible. It's very doable. I'm brand new at this, and I'm doing it. We'll see if I succeed or if we fall on our faces. But what I do know is that if you keep living the life you're living, and you don't take the steps and actually make the small sacrifices to budget your money and to move forward in life, then maybe that divorce isn't your future. Maybe under the water and behind on bills is just the way you want to live the life for the rest of your life. That's okay. You just do what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it at all. Just not how I want to do it. Anyway, if you're watching these videos, I assume you want to do it better. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye.